Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of the All Dolphins podcast. I am Poupart. He is Omar. Today, we're going to be talking about the draft. We might also even call it the draft extravaganza, but we won't do that because we're no frills here. You don't see any graphics. It's just
Draft extravaganza. Considering you only have 4 picks, none in the first round. I was making plans for the weekend, and then I was like, "Oh, draft weekend! It's a big, heavy weekend." And then I thought to myself, they don't have a pick in the first day, and then really aren't picking till the very end of the third day. Not sure they're going to be that active, but you never know.
No, but we can throw the name extravaganza on anything, can we? But no, here on the All Offense podcast, it's just good talk with two guys who've been around for a while. So without further ado, let's dive into it. And then you mentioned the fact that Dolphins don't have a lot of picks. They don't have a first round pick. They at one point they had two. One of them went away because of the tampering. No bad boys. And then the other one because of the trade for Bradley Chubb. And obviously the obvious question right now would be, how do we feel about the Dolphins having given up their first round pick for Bradley Chubb? Yeah, I'll let you go first.
I was never fully on board with the Bradley Chubb move from the standpoint. I thought giving up a first round pick and then $100 million contract for a player who's been okay, kind of Pro Bowl-ish, but hasn't really proven himself or stayed healthy for an extended period of time. Thought it was a little bit risky. But if you factor this in and consider it from this standpoint, would he have gotten a $100 million contract on the free agent market in this free agent class? Probably. If you were in this draft, would he have been a top 5 pick? Maybe. You don't think he would have been a top 5 pick?
No, not
in this draft. In this
draft, correct.
Please explain.
Well, I don't think he's got the cachet. And I know when he came out of NC State, I mean, he was all that in a bag of chips, pardon the old fogey expression. But he hasn't really played quite up to that level. And if you take his body of work where he is now,
just the NC State. Let's look at the NC State body of work, the 25 sacks, the body type, the elite athleticism. You don't think he would have been a top 5 pick?
No, yeah, but that's not who you're giving up the number 1 pick. You have seen what he is in the NFL now. And right now, I think teams will be more intrigued. Money aside, teams will be more intrigued maybe with Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson.
What?
Again, with the body of work. If you ask teams right now for the 2023 season, money aside, you can have Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson, or Bradley Chubb. I'm not sold at that many, but here's the thing. The Dolphins pick that they surrendered for Bradley Chubb is not number 5.
It's 29.
It was 29.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's talk. I'm not even going to get into the 29th pick, which is really the equivalent of the 50th pick, because I think player number 29 to 50, it's going to be equivalent because this draft is just watered down. It's like lemonade that you put a lot of Splenda in and it's just watered down. It's nasty. But Will Anderson, you're telling me that you wouldn't take a 2-time Pro Bowler. You wouldn't say, Will Anderson, for the first 5 years of your career, you're going to be a 2-time Pro Bowler who's going to produce. Let me get his stats up here. How many career sacks has he produced? I'm sure you probably know it off the top of your head.
No, I don't. And I'm going to quickly interject. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. Was he really a Pro Bowl player last year?
Oh, okay.
I mean,
okay. All right. But Pro Bowl is based on your reputation, your body of work, your respect level.
Sure. But here's the point. My counterpoint to that is I'm okay with the draft compensation they gave up because at 29, I forget it's 29 or 30. No, it's 20. It was 30, now 29 because of the Dolphins forfeiting their pick. I don't think you get a pass rusher, edge defender at 29 this year who could come in and have the impact of Bradley Chubb. So from that standpoint, I'm okay with the draft compensation, assuming, of course, he produces. I have more of an issue with the massive contract they gave him.
Okay, we agree on the issue about the massive contract. Okay, we're both in the same page. But you're telling me, and Will Anderson is considered the premier pass rusher in this draft. I'm not really that big of a fan.
Or
Tyree Wilson. Or Tyree Wilson. You're telling me you think they will have a better 5-year career than Bradley Chubb has had?
I think a lot of GMs around the league would take that chance in a heartbeat. Absolutely.
He's had 28 and a half sacks in his first 5 years. Okay. All right. We'll see.
Okay, it's solid. It's not special. So
Injury marks career, but yes. All right.
correct. He has a hard time staying healthy and that's part of it. As you being a longtime fan of Devontae Parker, and I mean that very sarcastically, you fully understand that availability and dependability is an ability.
I think Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson will struggle to match what he's accomplished in his career. But health has been a factor. Okay. We shall see.
Okay. Moving on to what the Dolphins do have, their first pick, which is 51st overall, actually 52nd, but they move up to 51 because of that forfeited pick again. And then they have the third round pick, which is 84. Seems pretty obvious to me. The first pick has to be a tight end and an offensive lineman. No,
I think I was listening to Path to the Draft. It was the executive for the Kansas City Chiefs, Scott Pioli. He'd worked for Atlanta and New Orleans, and he'd said some of the big New England. My bad. He said some of the biggest mistakes that he made in his draft tenure was when he was drafting for position needs. And when you talk to Chris Greer says some of the biggest mistakes that he's made in his career is when he's drafting for position needs.
Austin Jackson, sorry.
I think that you need to take the best, highest rated player.
I agree.
It makes me very uncomfortable to say that. Now, your board has to match your need, so you should rank them. Rank them now. Rank them. That's what you should have spent the last 2 weeks doing.
That's done.
That's done. Should be done. Now tonight you go dinner with Steve Ross, and you come up with and the head coach, and you come up with your draft plan. And you say, we're doing this. And this is an annual dinner that they have before the draft. And I love that dinner because we used to be able to find out what happened during that dinner. Back when Steve Ross was around and talking to us and would come up and, tell us everything about the draft. And I love that about Steve. Now he's been hiding from us since what was it? Was it Donald Trump? He's been hiding from us. What was the reason?
I think that's when it started the whole
fundraiser. Yeah.
Stills and yeah.
I'm blaming Kenny Stills on that.
Mm-hmm.
Love the cause. Hate the fact that Steve Ross has been hiding from us for 3 years now, 4 years. I feel like they have to take a tight end and an offensive lineman in the second day. Now, does that mean that they'll pass up on a top-rated running back or a top-rated defensive lineman or a top-rated linebacker if that guy is rated drastically higher than their position of need? It means yes, because Chris Greer knows how he makes mistakes. He knows how he makes mistakes.
Yep. But here's my counter to that, though. Because, for example, I don't expect it to happen, but if Jahmyr Gibbs is there at 51 and that dude can play, that dude is all kinds of quick. Here's the point I'm going to make, that even though at that point it could be argued that he would be easily the best prospect, and maybe in terms of value, that's what the Dolphins should do. This is not a suggestion or a saying that what they should do is their history is there's zero chance they're taking him.
Yes.
But if they didn't take a running back in 2020 with their third of 3 first-round picks, when not one running back was off the board and they were staring at either Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, CEH, and A.J. Dillon, they had their pick of any of them. And instead they went for a project in Noah Benogany. And we all know how that's panned out.
You can go to any draft. You can go to any draft during Chris Greer's tenure. He doesn't take running backs in the first or early. Right. Now, he did select Kenyon Drake in the second.
In the third round in 2000.
Third round, my bad. And that's an Alabama back. He likes Alabama backs. He likes Alabama prospects.
He loves Alabama players.
That's a guy with speed and size. Jahmyr Gibbs does not have that. Here's my issue with the Jahmyr Gibbs. Yes, would Mike McDaniel be infatuated with him? Absolutely. Mike McDaniel loves people who can make stuff happen in space. But here's the question I have about Jahmyr Gibbs. You want him to catch passes, so that means he's a third down back. To be a third down back, not only do you have to catch passes, but you also have to pass protect for your quarterback. Miami has a fragile quarterback. Are you putting a third down back on the field who cannot pass protect?
Well, chances are more often than not he's going to go out into the pattern. But no, I hear what you're saying.
I'm just asking you that question. Fundamentally, with this quarterback as your quarterback, are you putting a third down back on the field? And people will show me clips of, oh, he blocked this safety or this cornerback, this blitzing quarterback. And I'm like, great. Is that safety or blitzing cornerback Jalen Phillips? Like, is it Kendall Bradley Chubb? It's not. And defensive coordinators, their job is to get a great pass rusher blocked by a back. Or I don't even think he can block Jerome Baker, who's a very good blitzing linebacker, in my opinion.
No, but if you see all the comps everywhere, the comp to Jahmyr Gibbs is Alvin Kamara. And
yes.
you envision Alvin Kamara in this Dolphin offense with Hill and Waddle, and it's like, I mean, the possibilities are very, very intriguing. But to me, again, that's first of all, that's not the Dolphins' MO. They just don't do that. And then number two, that's all great and dandy, but if the offensive line doesn't hold up, and this is where I'm going to pivot to the offensive line, where I think, and they're going to have to come up with a tight end, regardless if it's draft or anywhere else. They have 3 tight ends on the roster right now. You and I both know they're going to.
They don't have to. They can wait till teams trim down their roster and add some.
You didn't let me finish. I said at some point they're not going to go into training camp with 3 tight ends, so they will have to add tight ends. My thing is the biggest crisis position, if you want to term it that,
crisis,
is the offensive line. And the factor that's not mentioned often enough, because everybody's focusing on Austin Jackson, got to replace him. And if it's not him, it's Liam Eichenberg, got to replace him. You need to have a suitable backup and an eventual successor for your left tackle, who's a complete stud, but unfortunately, who's older and has a long history of injuries. And we saw last year when he was out of the lineup, the offense didn't look the same. Mm-hmm. So that to me makes the offensive line a lot more of a, crisis, maybe exaggerating, but much more of a priority than the tight end position would be.
It's interesting. Earlier this morning, I was listening to a radio show, Joe Rose. God, I don't have to. And Baldy was on. And mm-hmm. Baldy said he thinks that there could be 8 offensive linemen selected in the first round. And I'm thinking to myself, 8? I can't even name 4 good ones. They're going to be 8. So if you're getting at 50, you're not going to get a good offensive tackle at 51. Maybe
not if 8 go in the first round.
Huh?
Not if 8 go in the first round.
Yeah, no. I think you're going to get an adequate guy, but I don't think you're going to get a good one. Now, you might be able to get a good center. You might be able to get a good guard. The question I have for you is, do you take a guard or center and figure it out? Or do you press the panic button and just take a tackle because you need a tackle?
No, I don't take a tackle because you need a tackle, because this is how we got into a problem with Austin Jackson, with all due respect.
Jawan James before that. Yeah.
Sorry?
Jawan James before that, if we're talking about reaching for linemen.
Correct.
And I think I disagree with you. Jawan James, I think, had a good Dolphins career.
Oh, I called him solid, but nothing more than that. And
I mean, my standards for Dolphins offensive line is just solid. Do you have a higher standard?
If the guy's going to be the 19th overall pick like Jawan James was, yes, I have a higher standard. I want somebody who will make an impact. And he was solid. But this is where we got him in trouble. I'm not closing the book on Austin Jackson being able to pan out, but so far he has not. And right now it's looking like a bad reach. So no, I don't want another bad reach, whether in the second round. And then I want to go back to pivot to the Peter King report, where Mike McDaniel would love to be able to trade into first round for Jahmyr Gibbs. And you and I both kind of like smell a smoke screen there. I think, to me, I don't expect them to move into the first round. If they do, I'm of the opinion I think it more likely would be for an offensive lineman than it would be for Jahmyr Gibbs.
Interesting that you say that because they had Cam Fleming in this week.
He did.
Who's an established, proven veteran offensive lineman. There's still some good, decent veteran offensive linemen still out there. Taylor Lewan is out there. Not to say that he's a great fit or the answer to what Miami is doing, but they've got choices out there, and they'll probably sign them after there's a period where you lose compensatory pick. The compensatory pick formula comes into the equation.
Right.
So they'll probably sign those guys after that.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather add a veteran offensive lineman like Cam Fleming, or would you rather draft one early?
It depends on the guy. I mean, Cam Fleming, if we want to use a term solid or serviceable, I mean, Cam Fleming's is okay. He doesn't come in and go immediately. That's the guy. That guy's a starter.
Is he better than Austin Jackson?
Maybe. I mean, his resume is okay. He's had two years where he's been a full-time starter out of 9 in his NFL season. Although I did talk to people in Denver who watched him play last year who were very complimentary of his work. So
yeah, he's played for Butch Barry, which I don't know necessarily how I feel about Butch Barry based on a number of factors. And I'll wait till I actually watch his work before I evaluate him, even though I watched his work at the University of Miami and it was a stinker. But I'm fine I don't want to reach.
Same here.
I don't want to exert myself. I don't want to give up future draft picks like you did with Liam Eichenberg, giving up a 3rd round pick just because you saw a run on offensive linemen happening. I think in my mind, in my heart, I think Liam Eichenberg or Austin Jackson one of them will be a starter at left guard or right tackle. The other will be replaced by a veteran, by an established veteran. Which veteran that is, I have absolutely no idea. I have my sights set on Taylor Lewan, especially because he could play the left tackle position if you're in a pinch. Hell, I don't know what Eric Fisher looked like. I would love to give him a healthy training camp. There's a ton of veterans that you can go give them an opportunity if they want to continue to play. Half of them are not half, 40% are already retired in Florida. So come to a training camp in South Florida, they'll figure it out. So I'm okay with the veteran route. I don't want to reach on a tight end, and I don't want to reach on a tackle.
Completely agree. And I'll throw in a couple more names that along with the tackles that you mentioned, because Taylor Lewan once was a really good physical offensive tackle, a bit broken down, injury.
As they all are.
As they all are, pretty much. No, that's fair. Brandon Shell is still out there. Our good friend Billy Turner is still out there. I like Billy Turner. Maybe because I like him as a guy. I find him like really
very interesting. Yeah.
George Fant, who's an okay offensive lineman. I kind of prefer the other two. But no, there will be option, and whether it be June 1st or whatever, if they're not in the offseason program, who cares? Yeah. You know.
So if you tell me you're bringing back Brandon Shell, who obviously was a lot better in the run blocking than he was pass protection, then I'd say, okay, cool. I think that if in open competition, I'm not sure that Austin Jackson can beat out Brandon Shell, which might be why Brandon Shell is still not here. But I would bring him here just to light a fire under Austin Jackson. You need some options.
No, and think back to last year. Austin Jackson went down in the very first game, and then Brandon Shell took over at some point, and the offense was humming pretty good until we hit December. Mm-hmm. So, and part of it was because Ron Armstead was in the lineup, and two also was operating at peak efficiency. And then, and then December arrived and kind of went south a little bit. But no, I'm with you. I don't want to reach. That's the worst thing they can do.
Yep. History shows it's the worst thing that they could do.
No, but without question.
History also shows it's what they're going to do.
Damn.
Let me ask you this question, because this is the hot topic. I've never seen such a tight end obsessed draft, which shows you exactly how watered down this draft is. Everybody's like, tight end, not just Dolphins. Everybody's like, oh, this tight end class is so phenomenal. It's wonderful. It's great. If you had your pick, obviously Mayer and maybe Kincaid are off the board. If you had your pick of which tight end you would want, either 51 or a move up to get a tight end, who would it be?
I wouldn't move up for a tight end. That's number one. Unless you're telling me Gronk is out there, and I don't know that Gronk is out there. So no, I wouldn't move up. I know you're a big fan of Darnell Washington, who
Not as a pass catcher.
no, correct, but he's an elite blocker. But as you mentioned, kind of sort of, isn't that what Durham Smythe is in the lineup for, and why he got a contract extension? Even though I don't know, Durham Smythe is 8 times the blocker Mike Gesicki ever was, his good friend, his good buddy who keeps taking funny jabs at. But would any of us call Durham Smythe an elite blocker?
He's a upper echelon blocker, not an elite blocker. Darnell Washington has the potential to be a starting right tackle.
Correct.
Which is why I'm kind of like, I don't know if you see my vision for Darnell Washington. I do. I have created an obsession about him. Because when I started looking at the film, the first thing I realized is he's slow as molasses, even though he ran a 4.64. I mean, I used to complain about Mike Gesicki being a long strider, build-up speed guy. Oh, Mike Gesicki's a road runner compared to this guy. Yeah. He's a lumbering. Now, he gets to good speed after about 7 seconds. It's like a Hummer building up speed. Yeah, it gets moving after about 60 yards. But this guy could be a starting right tackle in the league, probably year 2. I remember being at the University of Miami with Eric Winston when Eric Winston actually came into the league as a tight end and was a pretty good tight end. And then his coaches looked at him and said, your blocking hints that you can be a $50 million offensive tackle in the league. We're going to move you to offensive tackle. And he received it, and it went well. Whether Darnell Washington is a blocker or he's a tight end, I don't care, because on toss sweeps, on screens, on moving the tight end out into a three-man bunch stack with Tyreek Hill and Waddle, oh my God, is he mowing down a linebacker or a cornerback, creating an avenue for an improved offense. So he would be my top target. I'm not a big Sam Laporta guy. I looked at his film, and his Iowa film was, that offense is putrid. But yeah, and I didn't think he's going to need a minute to learn how to block. And Durham Smythe said this yesterday, and I found it very interesting and fascinating. He talked about how, yeah, he came into the draft as a polished blocker from a college standpoint, but when he got to the league, he realized, I got a ways to go and a lot to learn. And I think any tight end in this draft, except for Darnell Washington, is probably going to learn the same thing.
Yeah, but are you drafting Sam Laporta with the idea he's going to be asked to block, or
No.
Okay, you're drafting him as another weapon for the passing game.
He's Mike Gesicki now.
Correct.
He's a 500 snap player.
He's a smaller version of Mike Gesicki.
H-back.
Correct.
Probably a little bit better of a blocker, though.
Who adds to your passing game? Because right now, as we discussed on a previous podcast, there's no clear-cut third option after Tyreek and Waddle for this passing game.
Chosen Anderson.
He's your clear-cut third option?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Bro, he's accomplished more in this league than he's probably Waddle, no. He's accomplished a lot.
Correct, but it's also been a while. He was not impressive in Arizona in his stint last year. That's what I was.
Bro, look at if Bradley Chubb can excuse his poor performance on defense I just got here and I'm learning the offense, I don't know people's names. How do you not excuse Chosen Anderson?
No, that's him excusing. Are you excusing Bradley Chubb's performance last year because
I understood it made more sense. It became more valid. You can't just throw a guy.
Come on now. The guy's a pro. I would excuse it more on the fact that he got dinged with a couple of injuries. I think he had an ankle. I think he might have had like a thumb or a hand thing. I would excuse it on that. This notion of like, I was changing teams in the middle of the season. Come on. Not buying it. Sorry.
Hold on. Wait a minute. I've started a new job recently where it took me probably 3 weeks to learn people's name. Another month to learn how to work the programs that they were running. It takes a minute. The culture, the work schedule. Like people act like, name me the last guy who joined the team and just in midseason and was just revving, just humming.
Okay, I'm going to make that my assignment before the next podcast, and I will come up with 2 or 3 names. Dude, it's really not that complicated. Bradley, you see the quarterback on the other team, his number. By the way, the guy who's playing opposite you, his name is Jalen Phillips. You don't really need to remember it. Just go get that quarterback over there. I'm not buying it. If you want to buy the injury thing, that it slowed him down a little bit, I'll go ahead and I'll buy that. When your primary responsibility is to go get the quarterback, again, the familiarity, the fact that he was dealing with traffic in South Florida, isn't there traffic?
Wow,
isn't there traffic everywhere in the U.S. and in
No.
Denver,
there isn't traffic in Denver. There isn't.
Okay, but no, I'm not buying that. So.
I've actually driven places and just been fascinated and be there at rush hour and be fascinated at the fact that it's not traffic. Just a side note. I'm like y'all don't have traffic? Like this isn't normal.
Chicago, LA, New York.
Chicago, LA, Boston, New York. That's it.
I've never been to Detroit, so I don't know about Detroit.
Yes, I lived in Detroit. No
traffic in Detroit. Okay.
No, not like that. Not like that.
How did we get into this?
So you were bringing up Chubb's excuse for why he did.
Correct. Why did I bring up Chubb's excuse again? We're digressing. I didn't even know what we were talking about first.
I'm not a big Bradley Chubb fan, but I understood what he was saying. Having been switched things up after 20-something years at one place, I get it. I get it. It takes a minute, adjustment, learning. You're like, no.
Here's one for you, Jerome Bettis. This goes way back, but that's the first one that came to my head. When he was traded from the Rams to the Steelers, he immediately came in and mind you, you had to learn a new offense too. In addition to learning new
running back, only so many holes they tell you to hit.
Pass rusher, there's only so many paths to the quarterback. Come on. Anyway, going back to your original
outside linebacker, you got roles and responsibilities, gaps, assignments, edges.
How often? Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that differs from team to team, really. I don't recall him being asked to drop into coverage. It was basically set the edge against the run and go get the quarterback on passing downs. So, no. Going back to your original question, which was Laporta or Darnell Washington. First of all, I wouldn't trade up for either one of them. I can see value in both of them, but if you go to Darnell Washington, the Darnell Washington route at 51, if he happens to be there, not sure about that.
No.
Does that then indicate that there's going to be more of a commitment from the Dolphins to the running game?
No, there got to be.
Well, I would have zero issue with that. Personally,
there has to be. Mike McDaniel said it. There has to be.
Okay, good. No, I think it would balance out and more importantly, they need to be able to run the ball when they need to run the ball. If that makes any sense, third.
You got to finish games. You got to convert 32. You got to score in the red zone. You can't be this cute pass. Mike McDaniel's background he's not from a cute pass happy offense. You got to get back to who you are. It's in your DNA.
Yeah, except that he saw Hill and Waddle and saw the speed outside and went, oh, boom, what the things I can do with it. But there has to be a little bit more.
Just because you're having a period where you like petite, big busted, bosomed women doesn't mean you can't respect the thick, fat booty in the end. You eventually will go back to what you like, what you prefer, Poop. You will.
Okay. Oh, interesting analogy there. Okay. Going through positions real quickly here.
What would you be surprised if they took in this draft?
Here's the one. Then I was going to bring it. It's kind of was what I was going to bring up. And I don't expect it to happen if somehow Hendon Hooker lasts until 51. I would advocate for the Dolphins jumping all over him because I think he's a first round talent, and maybe teams get scared because of the injury last year. Maybe teams decide 25 years old is too old, which to me is ridiculous. As quarterback play into their late 30s. Now he's gonna have a 10-year NFL career, so who cares? I don't expect that the Dolphins would take him, but I think that that would be my big surprise, and that's what I would advocate for them to do, because again, this is an asset that you're picking up, even if he never plays it down or becomes a full-time starter for the Dolphins. Look at what the Patriots did with Jimmy Garoppolo when they traded him. They eventually turned that into a second-round pick.
I
used to do that all the time as well.
I support what you say. If he's there at 51, I would seriously consider it. He's my favorite quarterback in this draft, my number one quarterback in this draft. That despite the injury, I'm not a big fan of all the other quarterbacks in this draft. Would I do it? Yes. Would they do it? No. And here's the reason why. For 2 decades, this organization has been scared, timid about adding competition. And Tua's fine, and I love Tua. But they would be traumatized by the thought of, oh, what message does this send to Tua? Not that I give a shit, and they shouldn't, but this organization, they do, and they will, and they won't do it. So we can sit here. Would I do it? Yes. At 51, if he's there, yes. But would they do it? Probably not.
No, I completely agree. Here's one other quick point I want to make about quarterbacks, because I hear some hesitation among teams near the top. This has nothing to do with the Dolphins. This is a general quarterback comment. Some teams have hesitation near the top. For example, Anthony Richardson, because of how NFL ready he might be. Again, he might be another Josh Allen. Was Josh Allen NFL ready when he came in? Not really. Adam Gase, by the way, loved Josh Allen, and certainly for those who want to dump on Adam Gase at every turn, certainly was right on that one. He wasn't ready, but the guy was a freak physically. And Anthony
also loved Baker Mayfield.
Sorry?
Adam Gase also loved Baker Mayfield.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But my point is that those teams are going to pass, and the talk of like, well, teams should pass on Anthony Richardson because he's not ready now.
I would.
He gives a crap. He in 3 years, another Josh Allen.
I would. I'm passing on him. I'm sorry. I'm passing on him. I'm passing on Will Levis.
Would you pass Josh Allen in 2018?
I would have. I thought it was a dangerous pick. I've learned they taught him how to be an accurate quarterback, and Brian Dable taught him how to be an accurate quarterback, and Ken Dorsey taught him how to be an accurate quarterback.
They taught him not to try to throw the ball through a barn door every single time he threw the pass. It wasn't. I mean, you don't teach accuracy. It just he's got very unrefined skills. The accuracy was there, but his mechanics were. Come on,
was it?
Come on.
No, the accuracy wasn't there.
You don't go. And he's an anomaly in terms of that, because usually you're very inaccurate in college. You're going to stay inaccurate. The problem with him is he tried to like wow with his arm every single solitary throw. And then they taught him to like, you don't have to throw it 120 miles an hour every single time. But it's there when he needs it. And the guy was always 6'5", 240, whatever.
He's a freak. He's a freak, no question about it. But I don't like that comparison either for Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. They're not Josh Allen. Sorry, they're not.
Richardson's pretty close. I mean, the dimension he's not. I don't think he's quite as thick, but he's got the same kind of size. He got a pretty big arm. Will Levis has got a big arm too. I am just saying that people who poo-poo on those guys because, well, they're not NFL ready. Okay, well, if you're being drafted by a team that's got no expectations anyway, immediately, that's a good value pick for maybe 2-3 years down the road. Closing thoughts from you as we approach this draft. What's your?
I walk into this draft, and as I've written, and I stand on it, stay at 51. Don't trade away future assets. Don't move down to pick up other assets, no matter how enticing the offer is, with the exception of a first-round pick in 2024. Stay where you are. I think that you can make a good living with the undrafted rookies. You could be the destination for undrafted rookies. Steve Ross will write $100,000 guarantees. Give me 10 $100,000 guarantees. You need to kill the undrafted rookie class, because at a certain point in the draft, probably around 6, 7, agents are hoping that their players aren't selected.
Right.
Now, I've never really understood this, but this is the common practice because they feel like they can get more or put their client in a better position as an undrafted player.
Yep.
If I'm the Dolphins, I'm touching every single position and I'm killing the undrafted market with Steve Ross's money. Ross don't care. Like, if you put $100,000 in guaranteed money together that for 10 guys, that's $1 million in dead cap space. We can do 20, 25, 26 dead cap on a good year. Like, don't worry about it. Just go kill the undrafted market.
Fair.
Get the Cater Cadews, the Nick Needhams,
Robert Jones,
the Robert Jones.
I have no issue with what you just said. I would have no problem if they stay put. I have no problem if they traded that 2 for 2/3, for example. Again, based on this idea that the gap between players from the second to the third round isn't necessarily that big. I'd rather have two B players as opposed to 1 B+ player.
You'd rather have 2 Durham Smites as opposed to a Brandon Jones
In a heartbeat. If that's the comp, in an absolute heartbeat. And no disrespect to
Brandon. As a two Durham Smites as opposed to a Robert Hunt.
Well, no, because Robert Hunt's a frontline player. Robert Hunt is not a B player. Robert Hunt's like a B+ A-. But
he was a third round.
He was an early second round pick, and Durham was a 4th round pick.
So I would rather stay where I am and get me a top 50 player.
And the Dolphins, and Durham Smythe was a 4th round pick. The Dolphins have a mid-second round pick.
The third rounders in this draft will be 4th rounders in last year's draft. The
second rounders will be 3rd rounders. So,
second rounders will be 3rd rounders. Yeah, you're right.
I would, because here's the thing: is 4 draft picks is a really low numbers if you're trying to build up a talent base. And I understand the UDFA route. I get it. It's cool and all that. It makes for great success stories. But generally speaking, you're going to have better luck with 3rd or 4th round picks. And having 4 picks every single year like they had last year, they're scheduled to have this year, not necessarily a recipe for sustained success.
Hey, let me end this conversation, in this debate with this question.
Go ahead.
Did Cater Cadew outperform Cameron Good?
Oh, but you're talking about a 7th round pick. You're not talking about a 3rd, which is my point.
All right.
Okay. On that note, we'll see what happens. I'm hoping for trades one way or another, because it's more fun than it to just make their 4 picks. Whether that happens, I'd be inclined to think that more likely than not, they will make a pick, but we shall find out. And then we'll be back here, same spot, same bat channel, to recap and discuss what actually did happen. So Omar, until then.
See you, man.